Ken, so what did the break do for you, the group?
Well, first thing it does, it gives you just gives you a break, and you have to take it, and you have to take the opportunity to refresh yourself, all of us individually first and foremost. Gives us a chance to then dive into what the first half of the year's been like, and know that it's been nowhere near the level we'd want it to be, particularly in the last month. And we get to look at some of the issues that were presenting themselves fairly clearly to us, and now we get the going forward, we get a chance to try and rectify those things, knowing that the only way you do that is put your head down and you go to work.
Did you get to the bottom of anything?
Look, there's some clear and obvious answers to our contests and our efficiency and bits and pieces of our game, which you all know those things. You look at the stats. Everyone looks at the stats. That's the one thing you get to look at outside. We get to look at a little bit more detail on that, but we know and understand the challenges around some of those key areas.
How confident are you can turn things around starting this week?
Yeah, I've never been lacking of confidence, and as a footy club, we've always been aggressive enough to back ourselves in and go after it. And it's a challenge again this week. We go to Canberra to play, against GWS, who were been in pretty good form over the last couple of weeks, and we look forward to the challenge. But I'm really confident around what we can deliver on, and hopefully that starts with with some personnel that helps and comes back into the team as well, which once we get through training we can certainly confirm that. So, but again, the refresh moment and the reset moment is a good moment to bring you back and go to work in the areas you need to go to work in.
Did you feel like it came at the right time?
Yeah, I think it came at the right time as far as the way we'd been playing over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we needed a bit of a circuit breaker in some ways, and the bye allowed us to do that. And as I said, really clear on the issues that we need to try and fix. It's a tough competition, so it's going to be a challenge to go to work and fix those things, but one that I'm really confident around this group and what they're capable of doing.
You haven't got much margin for error because of
None.
the total, well, almost none. How do you get this to turn around, considering what it's been?
Again, we've got to take this step at a time. Let's not go too far ahead. Let's just stay in the moment, stay in this week, and go, okay, let's train really well. And I know, look, if I just share, like last Saturday's training, we trained really, really well. We've prepared, through early parts of this week. Today will be another important session for us to train well and make sure we start with that focus on those areas that we've talked around. And if we can get those things into the right position, then we get a chance to go to Canberra and start with a bit better confidence and a bit more belief in what we can do still.
Just personnel-wise, Ken, what do you have to see today from Darcy, Kane, Farrell, Asava, and a couple of others?
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah.
There's a few. So, yeah, we want them to get through the session well first and foremost, and I think that's the critical piece. Darcy, in particular, is he's feeling great. He's had the week off. We were very lucky that the concussion happened with a bye. So, and Darcy's had a pretty good history of being okay with all those sort of things. We'd expect that he would get through pretty well, but again, till we get through this session, nothing's done. Kane will be the same. I think optimistically you'll see him out here training today. He looks ready. He's still got to train and get through. We've just got to make sure that that's the case. Without going through them all individually, we're pretty optimistic that we might get 3 or 4 that might be available for us.
What are you doing the Ruck? You sent Jordan Sweet back there a few weeks ago. Has he done enough to prove he's ready to come back?
He played really well in our last sample game. It was really important to that. But again, Dante's had first look at it for the last 2 or 3 games, and we've been really pleased with what he's been able to do. So there's some conversations around a lot of stuff that we have to go through after training today, and without declaring anyone in or out, I think the reality of that is give us a time, we'll give you the team as soon as we know it and let you know who's in and who's out.
Has that hurt your continuity? I think, all the talk's been that you've got 3 AFL ready ruckmen, but you haven't really been able to find one that's been able to hold a spot down at AFL level.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, Sweetie had done it really well for a good 12-month period. Dante had come off a long off-season of surgery and everything else, so his preparation was a little underdone, but Sweetie's form dropped away a little bit, but he's been, to be fair to him, he's been really strong for us for 18 months, and I'm looking forward to the time when he's really strong again and we do pick him, and the challenge, we've always had this question thrown at us times, do we ever pick 2, do we pick 1, if they're in really good form, I'll be happy to pick 2.
What sort of role does it being, minus 15 degrees in Canberra on Saturday night play?
Is it that cold?
Well, it's not that, but I think it's in the single digits. What role does that play when you look at maybe rushing a guy like Horn Francis back early from a
Well, he's not playing this week.
But does that play a role? That, if it's off.
No. When they're ready, they play. It's as simple as that. We're not in a position, I don't think, to be cautious. We're in a position to go for it. And in fact, what we should do is just do what we've always done. We've been very, very good. When you look at our look at our injury lists over a period of time, we look at our reoccurrences and all those numbers, we don't make any, spur of the moment decisions just because it's too cold in Canberra, if that's what you're alluding to, or we need to win. We don't make those decisions. We make the decisions that are based on evidence, and we go with that alone.
How close was he? How close was he to play?
Pretty close. You'll see him train today, so when he's training, it normally means they're pretty damn close. So, he just, look, if I'm being, I'll be really upfront. He's probably one session short, training session. So that's how close it was. Now, if we were risky or we were nervous, maybe we'd push it a bit too far. We're not. We're in a position of composure and a position of calmness, knowing that we're not playing where we need to play.
So you left Perth saying you're not into conceding. What makes you think this group's up for that challenge too?
Oh, look, we've been pretty... Look, we haven't been so far this year, but we've been a pretty consistent footy club. And we've been pretty reliable. So I've got to back in the evidence that I have and, and trust this group of players. I always do. Look, they'll bring great effort and they'll try and bring their absolute best. But it's a tough competition. You've got to be so good to win in this competition.
So you've had this mid-season break where you assess everything. What's been their feedback as to why they feel they have?
They do rely on us a lot. I think they rely on us a lot for the game style feedback and the performance feedback. They've got enough on their plate that they're focusing on their own preparation. They do need to have a mental break. I think that's really important for our players. To get one bye for the season. Some teams get two. We get one bye. We've got to be really, really clear. That they've got to get a break first, and then we give them a mental and a physical refresh, and then we bring them back and say, hey, listen, these are the things that we're going to focus on. These are your obligations now to make sure that we do our best on game day to do that.
Now got pretty access to two of the SMFL's most informed players through the mid-season draft. Do you think we'll see them at some stage before the season's out?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's really exciting for the three boys that we've taken into the club now, and they get an opportunity to produce. And who knows? There could be an AFL opportunity very quickly for them. And our history says that we do put them in pretty quick. So I look forward to all three boys playing well on the weekend in the SANFL. And if that's the case, and they play well enough, as you said, they come out of their clubs, and their clubs have been great. That they've played really good to get drafted. So that would suggest that they're in really good SANFL form. Our options is to pick really good SANFL form when we need AFL players. They're at the top of the pops, I would say, when it comes to how they've played in the SANFL.
Did you get an invite to dinner last night with Jace and Nazai?
Last night?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Okay.
Was there dinner?
Apparently.
And yoshi, frozen yogurt,
Frozen.
little toppings as well, delicious.
Better have it now, because it's going to be cold in Canberra.
On that, how important, and I know that you're involved in the recruiting and list management now, but how important is it to have a couple of players who are friends or have a relationship when you are trying? Can that be a 1%er in getting someone over the line?
Look, I don't want to talk about opposition players, so I don't think that's the right thing for me to do, but when you're recruiting and when you're looking after improving your team, you use everything that's available to you, and if friendships are a part of that, look, let's go back. You talk Lukosius and Rosie. It didn't hurt. That's just what happens. But every player at this time who's got a decision to make, they look at all the things that they've got available. That's all I can offer you on that.
Just on Lukosius, Ken, what happened with his back injury and how frustrating?
Unfortunately, just hurt his back, which is separate to his knee. I thought he was back this week too. Got to be honest, I thought he was. In fact, I thought he was nearly a chance before the bye, and unfortunately, the back's held him up now for a couple of weeks, which will probably push him back another couple of weeks. So it's looking much better today than it did, 10 days ago. But let's not promise anything until we know where it's going.
How much does that hurt you, Ken? I mean, as a club, you invested so much in him, and he's played all of one game.
I think it hurts. I mean, it's obviously it hurts. I mean, Marshall Lukosius, that hurts. There's no denying that. Georgiadis has been outstanding for us to be able to step up and play probably the lead role a little bit more than he would have naturally thought, or we would have naturally thought that he was going to have to do. So yeah, it hurts, but look, I look at all clubs. Some clubs have been able to cope really well with injuries. Some clubs haven't been able to cope as well. But when you put confidence and injuries and all those things and form all into the mix, they all play a part.
How do you see how Ollie Lord's tracking?
Yeah, Ollie hasn't. His last 3 or 4 weeks haven't been absolutely at his best. What do we do love about Ollie? He brings contests and he brings great effort all the time, and we trust him to, when he's out there playing, that he can actually perform a role for us. It's not always just about marks and goals, but it certainly helps when we're struggling to score. So, Ollie's like quite a few in the team. I would say he's not flying.
What can you do?
Last couple of
What can you do at 3/4 time, Ken, to rev up your boys for?
Oh, look, sometimes the worst thing about it is it just keeps getting spoken about and so it does play a role. But what I know that absolutely works, is this will continue until we finally break the duck when it comes to a 4th quarter. All I can do is focus on action, not on outcome. And if we can stay on action, we'll give our best chance to change the outcome. Don't worry about the outcome until you're really sure on your actions.
While you were on the break, it was reported that you will step away early if the club is out of finals contention.
Was it?
Yes. Will you step away early?
Why would you think I'd be any different than what I was at the start of the year?
So nothing's changed?
Not from my point of view. Who reported it?
Tom Morris?
There's your question.
Well, I'm asking the question.
Well, you need to ask Tom
Yeah.
if he's reported that, not me. Oh, look, I'll be really strong on this. A lot of things get reported that are actually infactual. That's one of them.
So if the team's out of finals reach, you won't step away. You'll continue through.
I thought I just answered that.
I'm just double checking.
You don't need to double check. You do not need to double check. My commitment was to fulfil my obligation through the rest of this year to give the club the best position it can possibly be in for the next 12 months after that, but not before then. My focus is strongly on playing GWS and winning that game of football to keep ourselves as much as we possibly can, keep ourselves going in this season, and we'll never give up on the chase. And I won't give up. Is that clear enough?
Sorry, just on the
Just triple checking.
Yeah, sounds like we're triple checking. And I think your next point to check is Tom.
Yeah.
Last question.
just on the political upheaval in Tasmania, which has
Jesus.
Political
upheaval in Tasmania. I am not going to be the Premier of Tasmania.
But upheaval today could leave the Tasmania team on life support. How much would a blow would it be for football in general if the Tasmania team was to fall over?
Oh, look, that's just not a question for me. I don't think. I think the competition's shown growth in everything it's done over a long period of time. And I think probably it seems like Tasmania are part of that growth, but I've got nothing really to offer to what it does long term. I think the game growing is really important. I think that's significant for the AFL, and it's been very successful for us. So hopefully it continues.